Dee probably did more winching than anybody this trip, so she was a great asset. We lost our normal winch boys, the big lads. They're out busy doing other things. So yes, Dee was a great stand-in for them, and I'm sure her shoulders will be telling her that she was doing a good job for the rest of the week.
It was noticed that my main position for most of the race, thankfully it was only a few hours, was grinding the pumps, but I'd trained in the gym in advance because I have experience of how tough these boats can be. And so I wanted to prove that I could justify my position and also show Raiya what's involved in a professional team and how physical it is and how continuous it is. So hopefully I didn't let them down, and fingers crossed the performance and the result will show that.
It was amazing for me. It was my pleasure to sail with Musandam Oman Air. It's my first time to do such a very long offshore, 600 miles, and in the fast boat. First it was so nervous, but it was like going well, and it was very good race for me.
Dee Cavari here in the Fastnet finish here in Plymouth, and so quick. Just take us back to Sunday, only 2 days ago. What was it like at the start? Because it was really busy.
It was hugely busy outside Cowes with that many boats all jostling to test out the start line and get in place. And with us having the first start in the Rolex Fastnet, we really had to make sure we got the start we wanted right without upsetting anybody else. But it was a great start, and we really worked hard right from the gun to really work the shallow water, so we were out of the adverse current to get a good getaway, and it's paid off for us. And I think that motivation carried through for the whole race.
Must have been great to be alongside a boat twice your size, Spindrift too.
It was amazing to see Spindrift there. It really, really lifted the spirits on board at Oman Air, and even the skipper Sidney Gavigno was getting excited, and it kept us focused because we could still see Banque Populaire and Spindrift at the Rock when we rounded yesterday lunchtime. So to be that close after that many miles, we knew that we just had to keep working hard.
What's it like on a boat of this size? Everything just is so much faster and so quicker. I mean, you're here in 2 days.
The acceleration on a Mod 70 is phenomenal, and I think everybody could see that as the multi-hulls left the Solent so quickly. But it doesn't stop there. It's that apparent wind goes forwards as the boat accelerates, and really, literally, you're just feeling like you're upwind sailing all the time, being buffeted by 30 knots of wind. In which case I think we actually really only saw 22 knots as the top wind speed, but it was great conditions. A little bit bumpy in the middle of the Irish Sea, and Raiya, our new Omani crew on board, found that a little bit uncomfortable, but she found her feet as soon as we hoisted that Jenica and started our mad dash back again.
Now, you've been called the fairy godmother of the girls from Oman because you are looking after them. How is she doing? Raiya, obviously it's the first Omani sailor to take part, female sailor to take part in the race.
Well, Raiya finished the race with a huge smile on her face, so I think that tells me that the job was done well. Being a fairy godmother, maybe it's because I'm making dreams come true, but I'm hoping now she'll be so excited about what she's experienced and go back and tell all her salty sea dog stories to the girls in Oman Sail and the women's programme, but also the other Omanis, and encourage them into the sport of sailing, because it can be exciting, and she's just living proof of how exciting it can be.
Now, you've been working out on this race, on the pedestal, haven't you, on the winch?
It was noticed that my main position for most of the race, thankfully it was only a few hours, was grinding the pumps, but I'd trained in the gym in advance because I have experience of how tough these boats can be. And I knew I had to pull my weight. These guys are big sailors that work in these types of boats all the time, so I wanted to prove that I could justify my position and also show Raiya what's involved in a professional team and how physical it is and how continuous it is. So hopefully I didn't let them down, and fingers crossed the performance and the result will show that.
Was it enjoyable, and how does that rate in your list of Fastnets and racing?
Well, this was my 6th Rolex Fastnet, and it was fabulous. It's right up there at the top of the list. A great team atmosphere on board Oman Air, fantastic boat to sail, and it's really lovely having that international crew. I think we had a really good mix of flavours and focus and determination to do well, and if the results show it, then everyone's going to be happy.
Because there's a list of rock stars, really. I mean, you, Damien Fox, all-round the world sailor, Neil obviously done it 7 times, and Sydney as well. So quite a good bit of talent at the back of the boat.
Well, I was really excited to get my place and get to sail alongside these sailors. So for the Omanis, just to realise how much experience was around them was really cool. And I think we added up, we had 23 round the world between us on board. So we were pretty confident that we could get to the Rock and back.
So what about those poor boats which are still heading towards the Fastnet? You saw 1 or 2 of them coming back. What does it feel like to be waving at them?
Well, we absolutely hurtled across the Irish Sea back towards Plymouth at 30 knots, and we looked on the tracker and we saw a wall of 30 boats on the tracker all heading in the opposite direction, and we were at hearts in mouths because we knew we had to cross that fleet, and we weaved our way through and waved at people and tried not to scare them. But I'm sat here enjoying beautiful sunshine in Plymouth, and the wind has really dropped, and I've looked on the tracker and so is everyone's boat speed. So I think now is when their Rolex Fastnet race gets a little bit longer.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Well, Neil MacDonald, in after just 2 days or less than 2 days. Tell us about Fastnet 2013. How was it from the start?
Terrific. Yeah, really no big surprises. We'd done a lot of homework on the weather. Sid had spent a lot of time on it and looked at a lot of different models and was in very clear mind how to approach it, and really it played out like the book said. And they were good conditions for us. Flattish water most of the time, not too strong a wind, but enough to get going. The only thing that obviously would have been better is we weren't on the wind. That's a slow process in terms of getting to where you wanted to go. But nice sailing. We had a little bit of rain here and there, but nothing unpleasant. And then from the Fastnet home last night, beautiful breeze and sunny blue skies. Couldn't be better.
You managed to hang on to a boat almost twice your size for quite a considerable time. How was that?
Exciting. I mean, it was nice to have something to aim for, and we knew they were quick at both the big boats. We'd sailed against both of them, well, one of them before, and it was clear that they were going to be faster. And really, it was just a question of doing what we could to stay near them. And it turned out better than we hoped. I woke up this time yesterday. We weren't aware, we hadn't spent any energy looking for them, but as daylight came, we could see them just below us. So pretty pleasing.
You did pretty well against the other Mod 70. I mean, you didn't really see them, did you?
Yes, to be fair though, those guys had a hard time. 2 up, I mean they're not designed for 2 up sailing, and there were a lot of times when sailing with 2 people would have been not impossible, but very, very hard work. Getting out the Solent, we did, I counted them, 29 tacks, and each one for a fully crewed boat is hard work. For 2 people, it must have been a hellish few hours. So I'd take my hat off for them to get out there at all and do it. So we weren't too surprised, and they shouldn't by any means be disappointed. But with 2 people, they're hard work, big boats.
It was it must have been great to finally get to the windward mark, as it were, the Fastnet Rock on this occasion, and bear away for that spreader mark, because you certainly sped up then.
Yeah, it was lovely conditions. By then we had between 18 and 20 knots from the west, and we went round the Fastnet, tacked onto starboard, and had that reach across the spreader mark, and we just took off like a hairy old goat. We're doing like 29 to 32 knots all the way across there. Then we got to the turning mark, bore away, Jenica up, and plain sailing downwind. I think it only took us like 6 hours to get to the Scillies. It was a fast ride.
How does it compare with the monohulls that you've sailed? I mean, I know you've done multihulls a lot, but how does it compare as a Fastnet race?
In some ways easy, because you know the end's in sight, so you can put in a bit more energy knowing that you've only got to do it for 2 days. So we were fully aware that we'd be finished in a couple of days, so you can clearly put a mark to how long you've got to work at it, and that's a nice thing. But they are tricky. There's always an unnerving part in multihulls. You know, you can't just switch off at any stage. Even in the light winds we had, a capsize isn't out of the question. They really are boats you have to be careful of. But this one in particular, we had a great team. The boat was well prepared. The guys had been, not myself, but the guys had been in Cowes for a week before, getting the boat ready and doing some practice. We had one or 2 days together as a team. But it was a really nice way to end the season, because that will be the last race that Oman Air does this year as a crewed boat. So for me in particular, it was nice to end on a great note.
And you're making the women work. Dee was on the pedestal, winching.
To be perfectly honest, I think Dee probably did more winching than anybody this trip. So she was a great asset. We lost our normal winch boys, the big lads. They're out busy doing other things. So yes, Dee was a great stand-in for them, and I'm sure her shoulders will be telling her that she was doing a good job for the rest of the week. So no, that was nice too.
And how about your Omani girl, the first ever Omani sailor, a girl sailor, to take part in the Fastnet?
Well, it's wonderful. I didn't know that until this morning, to be honest, so that's a nice thing. But that was good, really good, because I think it would have been an eye-opener. I think she was a little nervous, but by the end of it, she was enjoying it and happy.
And finally, when you're sailing back in here to finish on the second night, that's all, just two nights at sea, you must have been sailing past boats already heading for the Fastnet.
We were literally dodging them, and quite interesting, with the AIS now, you can see how fast people are going, and they're all averaging about 6 knots. So they've got a long race, they've got a hard slog all the way out there, wind or no wind, they'll be on the wind, I'm sure. And you kind of feel for them, but you know, it's an adventure for them. For us, it's a 2-day sprint, and for them, it's a proper offshore.